Hello, Kipsters. Today is Monday, March 22nd. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend with this warm weather coming towards us. It is getting closer to spring every day, and I'm very excited about it. Today, we are going to be learning about the final instrument family, the percussion family. The first week, we learned about the brass family. Then, we followed up with the woodwind family. Last week, we spent some time with the strings family, and today we are introducing the final and probably one of the most recognizable families, the percussion family. A lot of us have maybe had experience with percussion instruments. I know it's definitely one of the instruments that is introduced at a young age, whereas your wind instruments like the recorder and clarinet and trumpet, those instruments really aren't introduced until about third, maybe fourth grade. So these instruments, I am doing my best, even at KIP Elementary, to make sure that we have more of these instruments to play. But I wanted to make sure that we learned about them, of course, before we started introducing them actually in person. So for now, we're going to talk about them, learn about them, and then hopefully in the future, we will be building up this music program here at KCE, and we will have plenty of percussion instruments to play, hopefully for our friends and family in concert one day when things are normal again. So our first family, before we go on, actually, I want to just send that final reminder about these Nearpod lessons and making sure that we are in the Nearpod while we're watching this YouTube video so that you can follow along with your slides on your computer and answer the questions that I have at the end of the slides. Now, of course, you can watch the whole video and just get on the Nearpod and answer the slides if you want, but this saves you a lot of clicking and pushing buttons that'll eventually get you to where you need to be anyway. But up to you, of course. Just make sure you guys are doing those Nearpods and getting those questions in so I can see who is participating. So, again, make sure you follow along when I say next slide. You move on to the next slide, and it should be a pretty smooth sailing lesson. Okay, so instruments in this family we're going to be learning about. The first instruments we're going to be learning about today are probably the first instruments that I will hopefully introduce to you, besides the djembes and the drums that we play with our hands. But these instruments are the barred percussion instruments, and they come in small sizes and they come in large sizes, which we'll learn about here soon. We'll also learn about the snare drum this week as well as the bass drum. We will introduce the timpani and see some videos of the cymbals this week. And then we will also learn about some different hand drums, drums that were made in different countries, and of course, instruments that aren't necessarily drums that you play with your hands, but just different instruments that make different sounds that are recognizable to us, even if we didn't know that's what makes that sound. So that'll be more towards the end of the week. But for now, we are going to start with barred percussion instruments. And as you see on the next slide, go ahead and go to the next slide. We will start with these three. We have the metallophone up in the top left. You see up there in the top left, I'm looking at the pictures now. The metallophone, a small instrument, it has metallic keys. That is why it's called the metallophone. We have the xylophone. This instrument is usually made of wooden bars. Okay, so that is the xylophone. And yes, it starts with an X, although it sounds like it starts with a Z. And then our final instrument on the barred percussion small instruments is the glockenspiel. The glockenspiel is probably the smallest instrument of the barred percussion family, and it is very high pitched, so it's very easy to hear in most settings. We'll probably see a video of that instrument here soon. Barred percussion is the term we often use when talking about pitched percussion instruments that have many bars. Each bar is tuned to a different pitch and is struck by mallets to make a sound. Common barred percussion instruments for classrooms are xylophones, metallophones, and glockenspiels, which you see those three up there to the left. Moving on, we're going to watch a video of the glockenspiel playing a recognizable tune. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip forward. The glockenspiel playing a recognizable tune, and listen now. Awesome. And so that is the glockenspiel. Although in the picture it only had one row of keys, there are, of course, bigger versions of the glockenspiel that have more keys on it. Okay, so you did see one that only had the maybe eight to 12 keys on it, maybe a little more. But this one, of course, has the three and the two and the three and the two and the three on top. So this is just adding keys to make the instrument a little more versatile, a little more playable for your harder tunes. Now, if you ever wanted to play an instrument in the percussion family and you wanted to start in band, a lot of band directors usually start their players on these instruments so that they can get a feel of what playing music is like rather than introducing them very quickly to the snare drum, which is really just beating a drum instead of actually, playing musical notes. So a lot of us, if you ever wanted to play the percussion family, this is probably the instrument you would start on, and you would probably play this for about 6 months just so you can get a feel of what it's like to play with the band. Especially with this instrument, you can play the actual melody and the actual recognizable part of songs. Moving on to the next slide, we are going to talk about the other barred instruments. These are the bigger ones, the large ones, and this is on the left. We have the vibraphone and we have the marimba. Barred percussion is the term we use when talking about pitched percussion instruments that have many bars. Each bar is tuned to a different pitch. Bars are struck with mallets to make a sound. Some larger barred percussion instruments have tubes that act as resonators. Common large barred instruments include marimba and vibraphone. So a lot of these instruments, these bigger instruments, these two ones are very similar to the xylophone and the glockenspiel, except that they are bigger. So they have the ability to have those tubes on the bottom you can see in the picture. And those tubes make the sound come out a little bit louder, a little bit more deeply, a little bit more warm. And you'll see here, there's going to be a couple videos here of people playing marimba, people playing xylophone, people playing all the barred instruments in an ensemble. And let's see if you can hear the differences between each barred instrument. Good. I'm going to pause my video there. So if you want to continue watching that, feel free to watch that on the Nearpod. I'm going to pause my video there. But you see, in this video, we have students who are playing the marimba. You can see the wooden barred instruments over here. And in the front, they have the metallophone. We even have a drum set player in the back, which we haven't talked about, but that adds a little rhythm to it because these instruments, of course, can't create much rhythm. They're more for melody. They're more for the actual sound of the music rather than the actual beat of the music. But you can see here that these instruments are very capable of playing even advanced rhythms. Sometimes you'll have more than one person on a marimba like they do. Other times you'll be carrying four sticks at once. So you'll put one right here, one mallet right here, and then another mallet in between your pinky and your ring finger. You'll have two like Wolverine claws, and then you'll have two more over here. And then people literally will play like this. Like they'll play with four mallets in two hands. It's very, very talented work. But I wanted to stop this video. It's a longer video, so I didn't want it to push on too long. And I wanted to show you this next video as well. This video is also an ensemble. These instruments are a little different. The group's a little bigger, and the kids are a little older, but still great to see. Still great to observe this music. So as you can see, all of their instruments were wooden, so they were using mostly marimbas and some xylophones in there as well. But if those were metal, or metallic bars, they would be called metallophones. They would be called vibraphones, and of course, you see here that these are all wooden instruments. So wooden instruments, you play with different mallets. You play a little bit more gentle on them because they're obviously made of wood. But they have a very unique sound that obviously is very recognizable when you hear it, compared to the vibraphone and metallophone, which does have that more metal type of sound. We're going to move on to the last slide here. We have a little quick quiz for you. Which of the instruments is not a barred percussion instrument? Which of these instruments listed is not a barred percussion instrument? Is it A, marimba, B, xylophone, C, clarinet, D, glockenspiel, or E, vibraphone? We learned about four of these. Which one of these did we not learn about today? Because it is not a barred percussion instrument. One more time: marimba A, xylophone B, clarinet C, glockenspiel D, and vibraphone E. I'm going to go ahead and select the answer for you in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. If you picked C, clarinet, of course, it is clarinet. Clarinet is a wind instrument, a woodwind instrument to be exactly specific. So go ahead and click clarinet if you didn't already. And which of these do you play barred percussion instruments with? We have four answers here for some reason. Looks like the Nearpod made a mistake. But is it your A, hands, B, hands, C, mallets, or D, mallets? Which one do you think it is? Is it with your hands or your mallets? If you pick hands or mallets, you can pick either one, and I will see the answer that you picked based off of what the results say. But I'm going to choose my answer in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, and I would be choosing mallets for this one. So I would submit my answer, and it might say 100% correct. It might say 50% correct, but the answer is, of course, mallets. So if you picked D, mallets, looks like you got the correct guess there. But I picked C, so it says wrong. But I still know it said mallets, so you'll be correct when I grade it. But that is the end of this lesson for today. Tomorrow we will continue on learning about some more popular percussion instruments. Today, as always, Mr. Isaac has three things for you. You are kind, you are smart, you are important. I look forward to the day we can make music together again in a setting. And until then, have an awesome day, and I will see you tomorrow.